Welcome back to the show where we give you all the Dolphins news you need to know about. Remember, guys, this posts each and every single week, each and every single Sunday, I should say. So if you guys are into that, go check out the channel. These first couple news stories are kind of quick. I just want to run through them really quickly because it's we finally signed our entire draft class. We have just signed Mike Gesicki, obviously. We got some other news about Mike, kind of contradicting some of the news that we got last week, that he wasn't having a good offseason so far, and he's been kind of disappointing, but they really didn't detail what he was struggling at. Obviously, there's no physical anything, because it's not training camp yet, so he can't be blocking or anything, so it was a little concerning, because I was like, well, if he's not physically doing anything, like blocking or anything like that, he's just running routes, and maybe he's just not getting open, maybe he just he can't grasp the offense as fast as maybe coach would want him to. There was nothing like that in the article, so we have some more news on that I can't wait to get into, that is not concerning the fact that we just signed Mike Gesicki. So I know some of you guys are worried about that in terms of his performance so far this offseason, so that's good news for those people who are concerned about such things. Let's see here. This next news story. Adam Gase finally has his players. This comes from thefinsider.com. The Miami Dolphins dumped some big-name players in Mike Pouncey and Jarvis Landry in the offseason. J.J. was traded during the season, and Dolphins had their reasons for making all these moves. In free agency, they added guys who take every practice seriously and are bookworms with the playbook. Players such as Frank Gore and Danny Amendola represent what Adam Gase wants from all of his players, and he is finally molding the team into his vision. So we've been hearing this a lot this offseason, and I've brought this up before. He's really built the team and the culture that he thinks best represents himself and what he wants the organization to be like. And I think so far it's been pretty good, obviously. And everybody's like, well, they took a step back personnel-wise. I guess you could say that because those are some big names. We have a bunch of super young players on this team that I guess are a little bit more unproven. I think people are sleeping on Kenyon Drake. I think he's going to be one of the best running backs in the league this upcoming season. And you add Frank Gore to that backfield, who obviously is still a very productive player. I don't think it's necessarily that far back of a personnel step back, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You are losing a ton of receptions for Jarvis Landry, but you're not losing a lot of touchdown production. You're losing about 9 or 7 from one player. That's not a ton. I mean, you can make up for that with a variety of different players as a collective unit. That's not the. I mean, obviously the game is about scoring points. We're going to lose a ton of receptions. We're not going to lose a lot of third down production, despite what probably many people think. We were terrible on third down, even with Jarvis Landry. So I think it is a big misconception that we've lost so much, even though when they were on the team it wasn't working. So I feel like we're taking the right steps in the right direction. We have a young, talented football team that are all about winning, and I cannot wait to watch this team on Sunday. I think it's going to be a very good squad, very underrated team, and I think we're going to be a very, very good football team. And emphasize the team, because this is going to be a team. This is going to be a team that's going to execute. The offense is going to look way better, obviously, with Mike Gesicki. Hopefully he lives up to expectations. So I can't wait to watch this team, and I felt like bringing this up because yes, Adam Gase finally has his players, and this is exactly what we need, because it's not his fault for the most part that what has happened. I very little, in my personal opinion, do I blame Adam Gase for 2017. I just think it was a lot of different things that came into play that were not his fault. Obviously injuries, I mean, he can't do anything about that. And certain players that he didn't think would act the way they did, I guess is the best way to say that. So yeah, I this gets me excited. I cannot wait to watch this team on Sunday. Now, hopefully we don't deal with any more setbacks in terms of any injuries or anything like that, hopefully. This next news story comes from the Sun Sentinel. Omar Kelly's best and worst from the Miami Dolphins offseason program. Top offensive performer, the MVP so far this offseason, goes to, according to Omar Kelly of the Sun Sentinel, quarterback Ryan Tannehill. In his road back from a left knee injury that cost him 20 games, Tannehill's offseason work proved he has a good command of Adam Gase's offense and is developing developing chemistry with his weapons. His athleticism is I'm all over the place right now. Excuse me. His athleticism is on par with what we saw from him his rookie season, which means the Miami could continue using his athleticism to move the pocket on play-action plays. The biggest improvement Tannehill, 17, I don't know why I read that part, has shown in his movement in the pocket, sliding laterally and vertically to avoid pressure. So there you go, guys. The offensive MVP goes to quarterback Ryan Tannehill. That's music to all of our ears. I cannot remember an offseason where Tannehill won that. So that's, I mean, again, he's taking, not only his biggest critics are rewarding him for the performance that he's had so far this offseason. I mean, that's a huge sign of what Ryan Tannehill has developed into. And it's a dang shame that he's been gone for as long as he has. And this obviously gets me even more excited. I can't wait to see what he does in training camp, which is just right around the corner. Top defensive performer, the defensive MVP of the offseason so far, goes to defensive back Rashad Jones. Jones, who has been a stabilizing presence on Miami's defense for the past 6 or 8 seasons with his team, continues to be a head-hunting playmaker that can change the outcome of a game. The Dolphins worked on having him play deep to strengthen a weak side of his game, while he's best utilized closer to the line of scrimmage. Miami needs Jones to become more versatile if his pairing with T.J. McDonald is going to work. That's not a surprise. Not a surprise. I'm kind of surprised it's not Robert Quinn, because every time anybody does a press conference with any of our coaches, everybody asks about how Robert Quinn is doing, and everybody is just gushing about how good of a player he is. So I'm kind of surprised it's not Robert. But Rashad, obviously, and Robert, obviously, he can't really do. He can't really show, because he's not physically. They're not actually blocking. They're actually hitting out there yet. There's obviously no pads or anything on until training camp. So we'll see what happens then. But yeah, that's not a big surprise. Rashad Jones is obviously, we all love Rashad to death. He's Aquan Orange through and through. He's been with us on the roller coaster ride of all these different regimes over the past few years. So that doesn't surprise me. The Best Newcomer award goes to defensive lineman Robert Quinn. This does not surprise me. I was just talking about how Robert Quinn has had a good offseason. The Dolphins traded a 2018 fourth-round pick to acquire this two-time Pro Bowler who was returning to a 4-3 scheme that will allow him to put his hand in the dirt and attack quarterbacks. Quinn's effectiveness against Laremy Tunsil proved that he remains athletic enough to be elite. However, the Dolphins have to be concerned about a lingering back issue, which at times has slowed the 28-year-old down. A couple of, like I just said before, it's not training camp yet, so until people are hitting each other, you really can't judge defensive linemen or offensive linemen, because it's basically just a two-hand touch, like, hey man, I'm faster than you. Of course, people who are athletic are going to shine a lot more than technicians and people who can actually play football, because you're really not playing football yet. So we'll see if Robert Quinn can continue that, and obviously they brought up his longevity. Whether he can stay healthy for a 16-game season and an off-season is a huge question mark. We need him to do that. All I want from his is at least 12 games. If we can just get 12 games out of Robert at like 100%, which probably would be a miracle, I would be happy. But it's nice to hear that Robert is a straight-up beast. Most impactful rookie. So the best rookie of the offseason goes to defensive back Minkah Fitzpatrick, who has had one heck of an offseason. If you guys haven't been reading, he has been very disruptive. According to teammates, Minkah Fitzpatrick, the Dolphins' 2018 first-round pick, finished the offseason with the most practice interceptions. That means he's been giving Brock Osweiler and David Fales issues. The hope is that the former American Alabama standout will develop fast enough to make it difficult for Miami's coaches to keep him out of the base defense. Yeah, he's been picking off people left and right. Granted, it's David Fales and Brock god-awful Osweiler, but for a rookie to have that kind of production already, and he's going to be playing quarterbacks that are that bad anyway. He's going to be playing some pretty trash quarterbacks. He's going to be playing some young quarterbacks this season. So the fact that he's doing that is obviously music to everybody's ears. Especially since, I mean, not to hate on Charles Harris, but he was not nowhere near the offseason that my dude number 29 is having currently. So I think Meek is going to be the best rookie we've drafted probably since Jarvis, I would say, in terms of how effective he is. And unless we go a full on, incoherent, tone deaf, and don't put him out there. Unless that happens, Minka Fitzpatrick is going to be a beast. Because I want to throw him in the fire week 1. Just get him out there, so that way by week 15, this man is full on like Ed Reed stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy, he's beating your mom's cheeks and he's beating your dad's cheeks. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I want to happen. The most improved player award goes to wide receiver Jakeem Grant. Grant's hands were unreliable his rookie season. The former Texas Tech standout dropped far too many passes and punts to be trusted. His hands improved in his second season, and it appears his understanding of Miami's offense has gotten him to the next level as a player. Grant was so impactful during the spring that Gase was talking about. Gase was talking about having him work with Ryan Tannehill during training camp. The biggest concern about Grant is whether or not he'll show up when pads come on. I would say so. I mean, he had such a good end to the last season when he got playing time. So, I mean, the only thing he did wrong was drop the touchdown that against the Patriots that kept them in the game. But he would have had a 2-touchdown night on, Monday Night Football against New England. That would have been amazing. And obviously he had, the big touchdown run against Kansas City. He made a lot of really good plays. So I trust him. I think he's developing into the player that we thought he would be. And obviously Texas Tech has a long history of really good, small, quick receivers. When you talk about Wes Welker and Danny Amendola, and now Jakeem Grant. So I'm excited. This next news story we're not moving on. We're still doing the Oscars. We're still giving out rewards. The Don't Sleep on Me award goes to defensive back TJ McDonald. And again, in case you guys were wondering, what the heck is he talking about? This is the Sun Sentinel. They're giving out rewards to the top performers that they have witnessed so far this offseason. So the Don't Sleep on Me award goes to defensive back TJ McDonald. McDonald played so well last training camp. Dolphins signed him to a 4-year contract extension that will pay him $1.5 million this season. So far, McDonald has shown he might be the team's biggest bargain because his practices have proven he's still a solid player. However, McDonald and Rashad Jones need to find a way to make their chemistry work, considering both are viewed as physical box safeties. And this is where hard-headedness and stupidity can get in the way of creativeness. And I guess creative. Well, first of all, TJ needs to be a linebacker. I think we can all agree on that. And Minka needs to be the free safety. It's that simple. But obviously they're like, no, we're gonna play 3 safety. Just because TJ played safety in the past, doesn't mean that you have to say we're gonna play 3 safety and stupid stuff like that. I mean, I just wish we could get ahead of the curve this early in the offseason. That way, when we start the season, everybody's comfortable in their role. But unfortunately, that's not how it's going. So we'll see. This next, I keep saying next news story. This next award, locking down a starter spot, goes to tight end AJ Derby. So he's locking down the starting spot so far. It's not a done deal yet, but Derby, a former college quarterback who spent his 2 seasons with the New England Patriots and Denver Broncos, has a strong grasp of Miami's offense. His ability to get open downfield means that he might be able to hold off rookie Mike Gesicki for the starting role as Miami's tight end. Who the Dolphins claimed off waiver wires last season. He has started 4 games during his brief NFL career. We'll see. That's all I got to say about that. AJ Derby, he did fine when he got his opportunity to start. His best game was in Week 16 against the Bills. He had a couple big catches there. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he's as. I mean, who knows what's gonna happen? But I just hope Mike wins it. I really do, because if he can put his physical tools together on the NFL level, he's going to be one of the best tight ends in the league. So, and obviously AJ Derby doesn't have that kind of talent. So and not to say, I mean, AJ Derby, we'll see what happens with the kid. He could be a phenomenal receiving tight end, but he doesn't have the size or athleticism that Mike has. So we'll see. All right, let's move on from the Oscar awards. And so yeah, there was your top performers of the Miami Dolphins offseason so far. This next news story comes from Dolphins Wire. Which undrafted rookies have impressed the Dolphins so far? Undrafted rookie free agent Chase Allen, Maurice Smith, and Torrey McTyer all made contributions for the Dolphins during the 2017 season. This offseason, the Dolphins signed more than a dozen rookie free agents, and apparently a few of them have already made an impression on Dolphins coaches. With three defensive players that Dolphins defensive coordinator Matt Burke noticed during OTAs and minicamp were cornerback Jalen Davis, linebacker Mike McCray, and Kason Collins. Burke said, quote, "I think we're always looking for consistency. Jalen Davis has done a little bit. The linebackers, they've all had their moments. I've probably dog-cussed them all a couple of times, but they've all had their moments. Mike McCray had a pick yesterday. I don't know if you guys were there on 7-on-7. Jalen's been battling it out in the slot a bit outside, and those types of things. Kason Collins is actually showing a little bit of ability to absorb some things. He's got some savvy about him and stuff. So there you go. So far, the undrafted rookies that have been making a name for themselves are pretty much all the players we thought they, would do well, especially Mike McCray. I think we're all happy about Mike McCray. I was very happy when we got Mike McCray. Very productive in Jim Harbaugh. I get Jim and John mixed up all the time. I think it's Jim, yeah. This next news story comes from Dolphins Wire. Dolphins tight end Mike Gesicki is progressing, according to Adam Gase. During OTAs and minicamp, there was talk that Mike Gesicki wasn't progressing the way many expected, but according to Adam Gase, that isn't the case. Ooh, that isn't the case. Ooh, there you go, a little rhyme there. Adam said, quote, he's had some really good days. Gase said on Thursday at the end of OTAs. Yesterday, Wednesday, was a good example where we had a 2-minute drill, and we had something in the red zone where he was able to take advantage of a couple matchups that he had. He's aggressive to the ball, and he can make plays. He's a big man that can run and has really good hands. It's been fun to watch him kind of develop and trying to learn the offense. He puts a lot of time into it. He's trying to be one of those guys that can play fast. The 6'9", 249-pound Gesicki appears to be on track to be the Dolphins' starting tight end week 1 of the regular season. Gesicki has a ton of attributes the Dolphins have been looking for since 2014 when Charles Clay was on the team's roster. So there you go. This is a huge contradiction. I wish I was there during the 7-on-7 drills so I could tell you guys straight up what I think Mike Gesicki is and whatever, but you just heard Adam Gase say, so I guess we could trust Adam in the quote that obviously he had a couple touchdowns in red zone drills. He was very successful in the 2-minute drill. What do all of those things have in common? He's being a receiving tight end. So we know what Mike can be, and we know what he's good at. And from what Adam just said, makes a lot of sense. So not only does that detail what he's succeeding at, which the last report lacked detail. So I'm going to go with this one. So yeah, hopefully that calms some of you guys. And I know you guys are worried because you're like, oh God, not again. Not another super talented athlete that cannot, materialize onto the field. So there you guys go. So he is actually having a good off season. This next news story, Dolphins Wire. Dolphins running back Kalen Ballage showing early promise and potential. This comes to no surprise to me, at least, because I know this kid's going to be good. Again, this comes from Dolphins Wire. Even though Kalen Ballage played in a no-huddle offense while at Arizona State, he struggled with the pace of the NFL game during the early part of organized team activities. Ballage said, quote, I've been in the no-huddle stuff and going really fast, but going really fast and knowing all the plays is completely different, Ballage said last week. Quote, Ballage said, quote, there was a few times where my mind is running 100 miles per hour trying to figure things out. See, this is what all the problem. This is the problem right here. It's the problem Kenyon had when he came into the league, and now Kalen is experiencing the same thing. But according to Coach Adam Gase, Ballage has been learning the offense quickly as they hope the 4th-round pick can be a weapon in this team's offense this upcoming season. Adam said, quote, it's a lot on your plate as a rookie running back, especially when the defense starts to get into some of their exotic stuff on 3rd down, and you're still trying to figure out some of the basic things that you're doing in the offense. This was a quote from Kalen, excuse me. Kalen said, quote, no, that was a quote. No, I'm confused. Just take that. I think, yeah, that was Kalen's quote, excuse me. Kalen said, quote, he's working hard. No, this is a quote from Adam Gase. I don't know why it says it's from Kalen. He's working hard. He's consistently been one of those guys that's always trying to find a way to get extra time and spend the time with our players. So, yeah, there you go. Kalen's looking good, looking like we thought he would. Impressing coaches, doing his thing. Now, I don't know how much. Listen. How simple. I wish I could sit down with that and just be like, listen. Just throw him a couple screens. Let him run some flat routes. Let him run a wheel route or two. Tell him to run a slant. Motion him outside. Just do simple stuff. Utilize his talent. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have to be our starting running back, but at least mix him into the rotation. Let him do some simple stuff. Just put the ball in his hands, and that's what I hope we do with Kalen. And maybe he learned from some of that. Again, when Kenyon was here, I guess Kenyon was the number 2 option, so he really couldn't do that with Kenyon because Kenyon was he had to do a lot more than Kalen would have to do, and that's why J.J. took so many carries. So maybe now that we have Frank and Kenyon, we can do some of those things with Kalen. I hope so. This next news story comes from Dolphins Wire. David Fales impressed Dolphins coach Adam Gase during offseason program. While Ryan Tannehill was the talk of the Dolphins offseason program this spring, there was another quarterback receiving a lot of attention as well. After being a journeyman throughout his young career, David Fales performed well during the Dolphins' organized team activities and mandatory minicamp. Although the Dolphins brought in Brock Osweiler and Bryce Petty, 2 players with more NFL game experience, Fales has outperformed them both. Adam Gase said, quote, I think he saw the improvement that a lot of us were talking about. We felt like that was a good first step for us, and really we wanted to see how everything played out, because between free agency and the draft, you just don't know how things are going to shake out. But by adding Brock and Bryce, I think it's been a good competition. All right, David, listen, I really hope you win this, because God, I hate both of those guys. And this is not, again, it just stresses me out. Because if Tannehill gets hurt again, it's over, guys. Like, even if he got hurt, let's say he's like, I don't know, he hurt his shoulder. I don't know what happens to Tannehill. Let's say he's out for a week. We're on shaky ground, guys. We're on some serious, shaky, ground. Because I don't trust any of those guys to start in an NFL game. Everybody's like, oh, David had a good last game, and again, he was going against a playoff team, so not to take credit away from the kid, he was going up against a team that was trying to make the playoffs, even though that team was hot garbage. They're lucky that we didn't have Tannehill that season and all the injuries that happened. Anyway, he still, if you watch the game, I've seen that game a million times, but if you watch the game, he made a lot of mistakes. Like, a lot of mistakes. He missed a lot of throws, too. I don't know if it was because he was so nervous. I don't want a quarterback who's nervous. Just go out there and play, dude. My God. He missed a touchdown to Kenny early in the game, and then he missed the game-winning touchdown to Devontae Parker at the end of the game. And then obviously ends up throwing the interception to Jordan Poyer. And, I don't know. The one thing I will say about him, he showed good pocket awareness, and he showed good football instincts. But other than that, his own, like, he did not. I guess football instincts is probably not the good word to use, because he did miss a lot of touchdowns. So again, man, we're like, it's just, whew, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, shaky ground. Shaky ground. Let's just put it that way. And again, maybe I'm being too harsh on him. Let me know what you guys. Maybe you guys have faith in David. I don't know. I just, God bless us if something happens, man. This next news story is kind of a part. I don't know. Did we talk about this last week? I can't remember, man. I know we went on a huge rant about the Tannehill Jarvis Landry situation, and obviously we've gotten some more news on that because he's doubled down on it since then, which is unfortunate because Jarvis was I would go to bat for Jarvis. I love Jarvis. It breaks my heart that he's not a Dolphin. I think he would have been one of the greatest Dolphins ever. I really do believe he would have been a top 10 Dolphin ever. He definitely had one of the more dominant first few years as a Dolphin than any other Dolphin has ever had. And I said Dolphin a lot in the last 2 seconds, but it's true. Like, it's very unfortunate. But again, a lot of sour grapes, a lot of salty chips. And it's just, I guess it's just a part of it. It's just a part of it. But this next news story comes from NFL.com. Jarvis Landry, quote, didn't have a good relationship with Ryan Tannehill. When new Cleveland Browns receiver Jarvis Landry told reporters last week Cleveland's quarterback situation is, quote, a lot better than what he had with Ryan Tannehill in Miami, he wasn't mincing his words, and he was not kidding. Landry doubled down on his assessment of his former Dolphins, his former quarterback when speaking with NFL Network's Andrew Siciliano, and some name that I have no chance of pronouncing right, in an interview that aired on Wednesday's Inside Minicamp Live. Landry said, quote, I'm not surprised. Landry said when he was asked why he had not heard from Tannehill during his departure, quote, this is a quote from Jarvis. You guys can go watch the video yourselves. He said, quote, we didn't really have a good relationship anyway, so I'm not surprised. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and hit the brakes on the bus there. We're gonna go ahead and hit those brakes. Now, there's a lot of things that I'm upset about when it comes to this report. Number one, Jarvis is clearly lying about other things. Now, I don't know if he's lying about this. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you what I know, and this is what I know. Number one, this is what I know for sure. He lied about. He said that him and Tannehill never threw with his receivers in the offseason. That is a complete and utter lie. Ever since Tannehill has been here, I think he's thrown with the receivers. And there's articles you guys can read. There's photographic evidence of this, and so there's evidence that this actually happened. He did throw with Jarvis on the offseason. Not only that, but I guess he took Jarvis fishing at one point, like, and this is stuff I know between the relationship. And Jarvis obviously was one of the first people to hug Tannehill when he was, balling on the sideline. Tannehill has had nothing but great things to say about Jarvis, and even when Jarvis was in Miami, Jarvis had nothing but great things to say about Tannehill, how much of a hard worker he was, how good of a leader he was. He said many times about those things with Tannehill. So, unless this was some kind of facade, which it wasn't, because we all know that Jarvis and Adam did not have a good relationship. I don't know if this is a stab at Adam, but I do know this. Tannehill, it's very hard for me to believe that they had this bad of a relationship. I don't know. It's just very difficult for me to believe. Now, the reason I'm so mad at this is I know that Jarvis has lied about certain things. So why wouldn't he just lie about this? Wouldn't surprise me. And I just wanted to bring that up. The second thing that I'm hitting the brakes on the bus for, and this is what's really ticking me off, and I brought this up about in last week's episode. Why do we hate on him so much? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. When Brent Grimes comes out and just says stuff that's not even related to football, half the stuff that was said about him wasn't even related to football. And it was coming from a person who has the brain of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, okay? That has the knowledge of football that it's ridiculous, right? Now, whether Brent was... we're not even going to get into that, but that Exhibit 1, right? And obviously Mike Pouncey said what he said. Whatever that means, I don't know. And him and Mike had a great relationship, Tannehill and Mike did. I mean, from everything that we know about the relationship, it was a great relationship. So I don't know about any of that. But I'm just bringing up every everything that's been coming out about Tannehill. And it makes him look bad. It makes him look like an idiot. And you know what? Nobody defends him. Now, granted, nobody asked Adam about it in his recent press conference. But any of the players on his team, Cameron Wake, like, some of these people need to put some hair on their balls and defend him, for God's sakes. And he shouldn't have to say it himself. His teammates should say it about him, so that way it's more credible, for God's sakes. But I'm sick and tired of this, man. It's not, first of all, you would think Tannehill is Brock Osweiler. About half of the stuff was said about him, for God's sakes. And I can tell you right now, and I think all of us can agree on this, Joe Philbin sucked. He sucked. Now, whether Tannehill did not develop Tannehill right at all. Constantly changing offensive coordinators, constantly changing whether he can audible or not. That's not how you develop a quarterback. And obviously Joe Philbin was very bad at it. Very, very bad at it. And obviously that was an absolute train wreck in the Joe Philbin era. I thought Tannehill did with the best he could. And again, he was young at the time. He's done a lot of growing since his rookie season, and before he's a completely different person than he was in 2012, as a player and as a person. You can just tell as a fan. So again, the thing that just makes me most upset about this entire situation. Now, I don't know if Adam Gase doesn't want anybody to retaliate. I don't really care, and I really just wish somebody in our organization would just tell Jarvis to shut up, or at least fire back a little bit, because I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. Not only do I think we know for a fact that most of the things that Jarvis said were not true. Now, again, I cannot speak to the relationship. I can't speak to it. I was not in the locker room. I wasn't in meetings, but from what we saw on the field and in interviews, which obviously you can put on a mask, but not really on the field, it seemed to me that they loved each other, at least liked each other. It didn't seem like they didn't like each other. I don't know. I couldn't listen. It just ticks me off. The thing that makes me the most upset is most of at least call them out on the lies. And at least somebody in the building, because all they have is good, nice things to say when asked about Tannehill, how hard he works, how T.J. McDonald, not Cameron Wake, T.J. McDonald, Rashad Jones, just gushed about how great of a leader he is. Kenyon Drake is so happy to have his quarterback back. He said that a million times, even before the offseason programs even started. He said how excited he was to have Tannehill back. So it's clear that his teammates love him. And this is just some kind of, I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's, and I know Adam and him didn't get along. That's for dang sure. That's why he's not a Dolphin anymore. And we saw that on the sideline. And I feel like, especially Jarvis's personality, we would have saw that with Tannehill and Jarvis. But we didn't. We never saw it. As far as I'm concerned, we've only saw them hug each other, clap hands after touchdowns. I want you guys to look this clip up. When Tannehill throws that absolute laser, and I'm talking, it was a Jesus throw. This was a God throw. One of the greatest throws I've ever seen a Dolphins quarterback ever make against the Chargers to help us win that game. When he just put it on the money, and you could see the shadow of the ball just lay it right in there to Kenny Stills. I want you guys to watch that video. Who's the first person to pick him up and slap him on the butt? Guess who? Number 14. So I don't know what to make of this. But I do know one thing. I knew Tannehill is a great teammate. I know he's a dang good leader, because that's what everybody says about the man, especially in 2016 and now in 2018, and in the offseason in 2017. Okay? So, again, the thing that makes me most upset about this entire situation is, for the love of God, one of you fire back at the man. He cannot just drag Tannehill's name through the mud. Somebody in the organization needs to at least call him out on these lies. And I wish I had the following of Stephen A. Smith, because it would be on. Okay, it would be on like Donkey Kong. It just ticks me off. Anyway, I saved the last article. That article for last, because I knew I was gonna go on a rant, and you guys want to hear the news. You don't want to hear me sit here and whine about Jarvis Landry being an idiot. So anyway. That was it for this week's podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed. The reason I didn't upload on Sunday was because it was obviously Father's Day, and I was out doing a bunch of stuff. So, I will not miss next Sunday. Excuse me. And I'll see you guys in the next one.